from my experience, dealing with conflicts and even criticism, pretty much a normal thing for a worship leader to have to handle. And so we're going to talk about that idea a little bit. And when I interviewed Rory Noland, I asked him some things about that. And so we're going to look at two different clips from that interview. And the first one, he's really talking about when he just started out as a worship leader and some of the things that he had to wrestle through in those conflict kind of situations and what he learned in the process.
I was pretty focused on the music, especially at the beginning. In fact, kind of preoccupied with the music, and really had no idea that getting involved in church, getting involved in ministry, would grow me up, and especially spiritually, and would challenge me to grow in character. And I remember experiencing all this conflict at the beginning. And even after high school, into college, and even in my first couple jobs as a worship leader at churches, it took me a while to wake up to this, actually. Experiencing conflict as we all do, and thinking, God, what's wrong with these people? And or what's wrong with this church? What's wrong with this pastor? And don't they get it? And little did I realize with all this conflict that I was the source. I was the problem, And I was, for starters, I was insecure, I was perfectionistic, I was defensive. And I remember very, very vividly, a good friend pulled me aside, and said, hey, it's really hard working with you, and we all feel like we have to walk on eggshells around you. And I was like completely shocked. I was embarrassed. I had no idea I was having that kind of impact. And that was kind of the first of a work that God continues to do on me in my own spiritual formation, my own character, and just shaping me and molding me more and more, into the image of Christ. But I had to surrender that. And so if I had to say something to myself, when I first started is, it's not as much about the music as you think. It's not all about that. It's about you. And it's about you growing into the person God has you to be, to grow into the man of God God is calling you to be, to grow into the artist that God is calling you to be. And let that happen. Let it go. Don't fight it. In fact, cooperate with God's movement in your life and the Holy Spirit's growing you up into Christ-likeness.
So before we move on to the next clip, I want you to think about what Rory said there. He didn't realize that he was the source of a lot of the conflicts that he was dealing with. He thought it was everybody else. And so I want you to consider, is it possible that you could have the same kind of thing going on? Maybe things that you just don't recognize in your own life. And so I want to challenge you to talk to some close friends, ask them some probing questions about you. Are there issues that you need to deal with? And don't be defensive when they respond, especially if they tell you some things that you don't want to hear, because that's going to make a difference in how willing they are to respond to you in the future. And so to me, this is a big deal. And I want you to think about, because Rory, he didn't recognize those things in himself. We often don't. And so take some time to look at that whole issue in your own life. And then as we move on to the next segment here, I want us to recognize that it's not always us that's the problem of the conflict. Sometimes it's others, but maybe there are things that we can learn in the process. So take a look at what Rory says here.
Working with people at church, and the challenge of being the object sometimes of people's dissatisfaction with this worship song or that worship style, and you are the target, you are the poster child for that, and so you're going to get every missive on that one. Well, that's a different issue, and let's talk about what that felt like to you, and what is it that they're saying, and A lot of times, especially with those kinds of things, we need to ask, first of all, is there any truth, to what's being shared? Is there any truth to your pastor's most recent criticism, of your work? Is there any truth to that recent criticism from a congregation member? Is there anything from God in it? Is God in any part of that? And your pastor may not have articulated in a way that was easy for you to hear, and maybe the email from the congregation member was a little bit more rude than it should have been. Okay, yeah, they should have done a better job. But that aside, is there anything there that you can take away from and glean? And that has really served me well as far as trying to discern, and it's a muscle I've had to exercise and learn how to exercise over time. Honestly, at the beginning, because of my perfectionism, I would hear a critique. I would get 10 letters from somebody who was encouraged and, very encouraging, and one from, somebody who didn't like what I did. And I'd just be obsessed over that one negative comment, and just I couldn't sleep. And I would throw the other 10 away. I would keep that other one, and just, keep crucifying myself over it, and we should always listen to criticism, but to blow it out of proportion, that's not right anyways. It's not right either. And so I feel like over time I've been able to listen to criticism and go, yeah, I could see that, and or in a healthy way go, yeah, I don't think that's something that God wants me to make a big deal about or obsess over. But this other thing over here, I think, yeah, I could be a little bit more, I could smile more, on the platform. Or, yeah, we have been doing a little bit, more contemplative stuff, and we should be doing more upbeat, or vice versa, Or, yeah, it's been a while since we've done some of those oldies that some of the older, congregation loves, or hymns, And so to be able to take the criticism soberly and not take everything so personally, it's been a challenge, for me. And but I feel like I'm getting better, and I'm getting more at the point where, I can hear things without it just turning my whole world upside down.
So 2 big takeaways that I want us to really think about regards to this clip. First, take Rory's advice and look at criticism. Whenever you get criticism, is there some truth in it? Somebody said, is there a nugget of truth? Is there a kernel of truth in what they're saying? Because oftentimes there is. And we need to look at that. Maybe somebody is helping to correct something in us that needs a correction. So I want you to think about, that's not easy. That is a challenging thing to do. And yet at the same time, over the long term, it's a really healthy thing to do. Because that way you're less defensive if you're honestly looking for truth in what they're saying. Along with that, the other big thing, and he said a number of things in here that I think are worth maybe even going back and rewatching. But the other thing that I want us to take away is the whole idea of not being obsessed with criticism. He said he'd get 10 things that were good and one that talked about him being bad, and that's the one that he'd hang on to. And I can relate to that. Often we artistic, creative, perfectionist kind of people have that. We see a piece of paper, blank white piece of paper with a black dot. All we can see is the black dot. We don't like to have people criticize us, and that's the thing that we see. So I want you to take that idea to heart. Don't obsess over that kind of stuff. Take the good things. Go ahead, hang on to those. But the criticism, look at it, see if there's truth, but don't obsess over it. If it's something that you need to make an adjustment in your life, in your worship leading, whatever it might be as a result of it, good, go ahead and do it. But don't just stew over it constantly and hang on to those things, because that's just not healthy over the long term. So look at it. Make sure that see if there is something in there that you really need to consider, but don't obsess over it over the long term. Some good practical advice.
Brought to you by MyWorshipLeadingCoach.com.
helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.